Hey guys, Ron here, and we all love Pokemon to the point that they feel like creatures we know more than actual animals. But if Pokemon were real and you were a trainer, you would have to take care of them like you would a pet or even a child. Knowing how to properly tend to your Pokemon's physical and psychological needs would be key to becoming a true Pokemon master.
Did somebody say Pokemon Master? Hey Pokemon Masters, Ron, Birdkeeper Toby here, and it's true. In a world where Pokemon are real, if you're wanting to be a responsible Pokemon trainer, well, you're gonna need to know how to take proper care of them. Otherwise, the Pokemon might suffer some severe consequences.
So this video will be a guide to looking after all kinds of Pokemon species and keeping them healthy. So basically how to avoid the worst case scenarios.
Well, the video over on my channel will cover what happens if you don't listen to us and your Pokemon becomes afflicted with some kind of illness. The worst case scenario.
And now that I have some help, I can go all out and mention every Pokemon with certain needs. The video will be split into 4 categories. Physical health, so necessary actions you need to take for your Pokemon's general health or harmful situations to help avoid. Mental stress, so how to make sure your Pokemon are psychologically healthy. Indications of health or distress, as in ways you can tell if your Pokemon are sick, and a secret final category we'll explain at the end.
Keep in mind, we're not talking about ways to take care of yourself around Pokemon. We're going to assume your Pokemon are tame, and won't use Pokedex entries that clearly talk about wild Pokemon. Ron and I will also avoid mentioning problems that Pokemon resolve by themselves without trainer intervention.
We will try not to mention unnecessary care that doesn't really affect a Pokemon's general well-being. You get it. Let's start with Pokemon who have various physical vulnerabilities and might need extra care in order to prevent serious physical harm. Specifically, we're going to start with the category of Pokemon who need special attention when they're newly born.
Newborn Charmander are unfamiliar with the strength of their own flames, so there is a chance they might burn themselves or even cause forest fires. So be prepared with a burn heal and water to extinguish the fire.
Don't try to suppress the tail flame, however, because a bright flame is an indication of good health. As we know, if a Charmander's flame goes out, it'll die.
It's kind of the opposite with Bounsweet. Its entire body is soft and vulnerable, without any sort of effective way to deal serious damage.
Bounsweet therefore literally doesn't know how to ward off predators that are attracted to its sweet smell, so make sure it isn't left out unattended.
Gothita is also at risk of unexpected attacks in battle. It's known for staring intently at everything, which can leave it distracted and vulnerable, so being able to bring your Pokemon's attention back to the battle with a call or a whistle is key.
Squirtle is more attentive though, but upon hatching, its shell needs to form properly in order to effectively move through water, so make sure to give Squirtle time to let its shell fully form before including it in any major battles.
Squirtle isn't the only Pokemon vulnerable outside of its shell. The following Pokemon are all vulnerable in some way, so proper care is crucial. Take Metapod for example. Their bodies are very delicate when forming inside the cocoon. It shouldn't matter too much as long as you keep your Metapod out of harm's way, or using Harden as it prepares for evolution.
You'd think Golem would stay far from this category, but once it sheds its skin, its body turns tender and whitish. Its hide will harden when exposed to air, but make sure no harm comes to it during this short vulnerable state.
Minior is also pretty vulnerable below its rocky exterior. If the core stays exposed, it'll soon die off. It may survive if you get it back into its Pokeball quickly enough though.
Turtonator is a bit more resilient, but it does have a major weak spot on its stomach. Make sure that it learns to guard that spot during battle.
Should a Turtonator use Sunny Day, it may be time to call back your Zubat, as it hates bright sunlight. Prolonged exposure to the sun causes the body to become slightly burned, so having a Pokeball or quick access to shade is important for Zubat trainers.
Stoutland is fine in the sun, but relatively hot climates aren't the ideal locations to train them in, considering it has been observed that Stoutlands in Alola look a little more uncomfortable than the average.
But going from slight discomfort to a major health issue, when enraged, Galarian Darmanitan will become fire type and won't stop spewing flames until the rage has subsided, even if its icy body starts to melt. So knowing ways to calm down your Darmanitan as quickly as possible will keep it from entering this self-destructive state.
While Rattata can take care of its ever-growing teeth by simply chewing on anything it could find, make sure Eradicate's whiskers aren't cut off, or it will slow down its reflexes and balance.
In terms of facial alterations, a Fracture's broken tusk will not grow back. Having rocks for it to sharpen its tusks on will keep them growing strong.
And the one thing you don't want to break off is Parasect's mushroom. The bug itself is mostly dead, and the mushroom is now the main body, so make sure that stays on or your Parasect will stop moving.
Body separation can be a real issue. Probobass has 3 mini noses, and sometimes they get lost, so just be vigilant of where they are at all times.
Clang is very similar. It fires its gears at high speed and, just like Probopass, may lose them. Keep track of those gears if you ever want it to have the ability to defend itself ever again.
Flabebe is also vulnerable if it doesn't have the power of its flower. It can be a bit picky, however, and likes specific shapes and colours, so helping it choose a new flower quickly will keep it safe if its previous flower has somehow become lost.
Kyurem is also an incomplete Pokemon. It's waiting for a hero to fill its missing body parts with truths or ideals. It's up to you whether or not that means combining it with the other two dragons or simply teaching it life lessons. Regardless, it has an unstable cellular structure, so it freezes its own cells into place.
Oddish, oddly, also loves the cold. Unlike most grass types, it needs moonlight to grow healthily, not the sun.
Just like Oddish, the following Pokemon need to be aware of how to properly take care of their leaves and their unique methods of photosynthesis. A good example is Bulbasaur. Its seed needs sunlight to grow. If you want it to properly evolve, make sure its seed soaks up enough sunlight.
Lilligant withers if its trainer does not take good care of it, or if it finds a male to be its partner. So perhaps if you want to keep its flower beautiful, keep it away from those pesky male grass Pokemon.
Servine, however, keeps to itself. When it gets dirty, its leaves can't be used in photosynthesis, so make sure it's always clean.
Lotad loves staying clean too. It grows weak if its broadleaf dies, so make sure it has access to clean water to keep it refreshed.
On the other hand, make sure Cottony doesn't get heavily wet. If it rains, its cotton grows moist and heavy, and it can't move at all.
Speaking of rain, the quality of water is also important to the health of lots of water-type Pokemon. For Corsola, they prefer unpolluted seas. In dirty water, their branches lose colour and deteriorate, so keep it somewhere where the water is unpolluted.
When it comes to Mantike, it feels sluggish in colder water, so provide it with warm water and it'll be healthier.
Wooper doesn't mind what kind of water it's in, it's just safer to be in some. When walking on land, it covers its body in a poisonous film that keeps its skin from dehydrating, so make sure to look after your Wooper's skin.
Same with Goomy. It's unable to breathe if it dries out. Its source of protection is its slimy, germ-laden mucous membrane, but its body is mostly water, so it will more easily die if dehydrated. Tentacool, however, doesn't have this special mucus, so it'll shrivel up without water.
For the same reason, Pampor and Aselgor do not thrive in dry environments, so keep them in a moist climate. Aselgor wraps itself in a thin membrane to contain moisture, while Pampor actively keeps its fur damp with water.
But Cryogonal is water, so unless you want an evaporated Cryogonal, don't let it out during the summer.
Manaphy is 80% water, and it's easily affected by its environment, so if your Manaphy seems happy in its environment, try not to change the quality or amount of water it's exposed to.
Palisand, on the other hand, hates water, just like Sudowoodo, so make sure Palisand stays out of heavy rain if you want it to maintain its sandcastle-like shape.
Maintenance like this is important for many Pokemon.
But never trim Wartortle's fur, because it needs it to store oxygen for when it dies underwater. Its lungs will thank you.
The air in a Primarina's lungs allows it to sing. Its singing voice is its chief weapon in battle, so a trainer must prioritize the daily maintenance of its throat at all costs.
A trainer must also diligently brush Vulpix's tail, or else it will become a mass of tangles.
Another fire Pokemon in need of extra care is Pignite. If you want yours to have a strong flame, feed it well, because the more it eats, the more fuel it has to make the fire in its stomach stronger.
After eating a ton, allow Dugong to sunbathe, since the rise in body temperature aids in its digestion.
In order to deal with hot temperatures, Hippopotas will expel sand instead of sweat, which it then uses to ward off germs. Having access to sand is integral to this Pokemon's protection against diseases.
When it evolves into Hippowdon, stones can get stuck in the ports on its body, so either have a Dwebble help dislodge these stones in exchange for some shelter, or else you're gonna have to constantly make sure Hippowdon isn't getting clogged with huge grains of sand.
Sandile specifically needs sun-warmed sands. It uses the heat to prevent their body temperature from dropping.
Perhaps Heatmore's fire can help, but make sure the hole on its tail is never blocked or it will get sick. That hole is how Heatmore draws in the air it needs to keep its fire burning.
Scatterbug has a very clever way of regulating its body temperature, by covering its body with a special powder. Don't remove the powder because it allows Scatterbug to live in any climate.
Furfrou, on the other hand, needs you to actively trim its fur in order for it to move at tip-top speeds.
Similarly, Wooloo might need shearing from time to time. If its fleece grows too long, Wooloo won't be able to move.
This seems to be a common problem among Pokemon, so here are a few Pokemon who need your help to make sure their mobility isn't restricted. For example, Ekans have the ability to swallow large prey whole, but it'll become too heavy to move if it doesn't control its hunger and forces down too much of its prey.
Sunkern, on the other hand, is a Pokemon that doesn't want to move, so keep it still if possible. Staying still allows it to conserve the nutrients it has stored in its body, ready for evolution.
Druddigan, however, can no longer move if its body temperature falls, so make sure it's always absorbing sunlight with its wings.
Slugma is sort of the reverse. Naturally, it's quite hot, but if it doesn't keep moving, its body will cool and harden, so keeping it active is the best way for it to stay healthy.
Spoink is infamously similar. Make sure it's constantly moving, cause the shock of its bouncing makes its heart pump.
If Vigoroth stops moving, its stress levels start to rise, which can make it feel sick, so regularly feed your Vigoroth and give it plenty of room and reasons to move to help keep the stress at bay.
But make sure to hold your Hoppips tight, because if it's not gripping the ground firmly, its light body will be blown away.
Lumineon's body can also be self-detrimental. Its light manages to attract its own natural predators, so make sure to keep an eye on it when it goes for a swim. Luckily, it'll keep the waters it swims in nice and illuminated for you to watch its back.
Dino, however, can't see at all, so make sure to guide it around or else it'll bite or tackle its surroundings, hurting itself in the process. But sometimes Pokemon are hypersensitive and need your help to make sure they are not overstimulated.
Take Wobbuffet for example. It hates light and shock, so you can use the tail to determine its mood, and be careful not to surprise one.
Don't surprise a Clefable either. Its ears are very sensitive, so it doesn't like loud noises or busy places.
Just like Roggenrola, whose hexagonal hole is actually its ear. It's very sensitive, so don't go sticking your finger inside, or worse, loudly talking directly to its face.
And make sure not to grab a Goomy by its horns. They're actually very sensitive antennas, so it will feel a very strong shock and even be unable to move if they're grabbed.
Some Pokemon hate to be touched anywhere. Stuffle is a great example. Despite its cuddly look, it hates to be hugged. Don't do it, or it'll squirm and thrash with incredible power.
Now we're officially done with all the Pokemon whose physical needs are necessary to comprehend. However, the following Pokemon are prone to psychological pain. So here's how to prevent them from any mental harm, like Goodra, a Pokemon that oozes gooey tears if loneliness overcomes it. So make sure to never leave it alone and always be extra friendly with it.
A Pokemon that really needs friendliness is Togetic. It seeks out kind-hearted people and grows dispirited if not around those who exude kindness. So don't let a bad mood control you when around Togetic. Don't harsh their vibe.
Try to give Psyduck a calm environment as well, considering when it gets stressed out, its headaches get progressively worse. Also, Hatena won't warm up to you at all if your disposition isn't calm.
Undue stress is easily brought on when Decidueye is caught by surprise. If you jump out and spook your Decidueye, it can enter a panic, despite being seemingly a cool and cautious Pokemon.
Ralts can sense your presence, so it won't be too surprised, but since it's so attuned to the emotions of others, don't show any hostility towards it, or it will get frightened and hide.
This one is more for your safety, but don't bring your strong emotions around Hatterene, or else it'll silence you violently.
Crawdaunt is also violent, but it becomes extremely timid and unmotivated when its pincers break off. They'll grow back, but your Crawdaunt will need some space during these trying times.
Never take a rock away from a Happiny. It will cry and fuss if you do. Leave it with its round rock and it'll remain happy and well behaved.
Execute also remains happy when all 6 eggs are together. If one member goes missing, the group becomes anxious and cowardly.
Dwebble also becomes very anxious if its rock cracks. While it won't endure any physical stress, it will become very agitated until it can find a suitable replacement to call home.
Crustal's a bit less consolable about its home getting wrecked. It feels unsure and begins to weaken if its boulder is broken.
You can also keep your Squovet from becoming uneasy as long as its cheeks remain full of berries, so make sure to keep your berry stores full.
Make sure your Dracloak has a Dreepy to hold as well. If it's not caring for a Dreepy or any sort of substitute, it begins to feel uneasy.
Klefki is also much happier when it's collecting keys. Though no one's sure why it collects keys in the first place, it's known to only like master keys. So having a few extra keys cut around the place would probably help keep this Pokemon happy.
Helioptile enjoys soaking in the sun to create energy. Interrupting Helioptile's sunbathing will stress it out to the point of weakness. Disturbing socks exercise is another surefire way to anger your Pokemon.
Pancham does its best to seem angry and pull a scary face. It's desperate to intimidate opponents, so to keep it happy, the nicest thing to do is to pretend to be scared if you catch it glaring at you intensely.
Litten, on the other hand, is actually quite aloof. Giving it too much affection even when you grow close to it is a no-no.
Mudbray becomes very stressed if it isn't showered with mud daily. If you don't keep it happy this way, it'll stop listening to you.
Minccino is quite the opposite. It cannot tolerate dirt and constantly tidies up its fur and environment. Make sure you provide it with a clean lifestyle.
Dartrix needs to stay clean as well. Its preoccupation for dirt in its plumage can leave it unable to battle, so keep it groomed.
Oricorio in its Byleth form will get very angry if you give it the wrong orders.
Mimikyu becomes agitated if you try to look under its rag, and will resist, violently.
Like Mimikyu, Rowlet feels relaxed in tight dark spaces, so to soothe it, keep it inside your pocket or bag so it can comfortably nest in a warm place.
Your Pokemon's biology can also be a good indicator towards its level of health. This next category focuses on these signs. For example, some Pokemon use temperature as a way of conveying how they're feeling. Cubchoo's snot is a barometer of health. Healthy snot is sticky, and it can use this frosty snot to power up its ice moves.
Magby drips flames out of its nose if it has a cold, so have it lie down for a nice rest in some lava. Cyndaquil will shoot flames out of its back if it's angry or surprised.
When Tepig catches a cold, its fire becomes a pitch black smoke instead.
Chimchar's fire, on the other hand, burns weakly when it feels sick.
You can tell Torkoal is feeling ill if the smoke from its back is pluming at an unusual speed. On the other hand, if Torkoal itself is moving faster than usual, it's actually an indicator of good health.
That's because, like any other animal, body language is a great indicator of a Pokemon's health. Here are a few Pokemon with unique identifiers, like Torracat. When its mane is standing on end, you can tell it's feeling good. When it isn't feeling well, its fur will lie down flat.
Wynaut might seem to have a big happy smile on its face all the time, but to know how it's really feeling, look at its tail. If this Pokemon is slapping its tail against the ground, then it's angry.
You can get some idea of Pikipek's mood or condition from the rhythm of its pecking. An abnormal pace may mean it's not feeling so good.
The health and happiness of many grass Pokemon can be determined by their leaves. Take Snivy. When they're not feeling well, their tails droop.
Turtwig's leaf wilts when it's thirsty, so, give it some water when that's happening. A very healthy Turtwig will have a very moist feeling shell.
A Petalil's health can be determined how deep the color of its leaves are. A bright and saturated green is a good sign.
Light is another sign. For example, if Shinx's fur is glowing, then it's in trouble or feeling somewhat afraid. Riolu's aura manifests as light as well, so it uses its aura to alert its trainer if it's afraid or sad.
Now for a very unique category within our video, a group of Pokemon who are a danger to their trainer. Obviously, all Pokemon are dangerous and could harm their trainers, but these Pokemon can also do so by mistake. And an odd way is by harming their trainer's wallet.
But this video is about making sure your Pokemon is healthy and safe. So how does this relate, you might ask? Well, if a trainer has no money left, they can no longer take care of their Pokemon. For example, Alolan Muck, while unexpectedly quiet and friendly, will smash a trainer's furniture and eat the fragments if it's not fed trash for a while. So constantly provide Muck with garbage, please.
Snorlax needs to eat nearly 900 pounds of food a day. This is a Pokemon you'll want to buy a lot of jelly-filled donuts for. A lot.
I mean, Munchlax too, it needs to consume its body weight in actual food every day, so if you can't handle this Pokemon's daily intake, then you definitely can't train a Snorlax.
Yungoos may seem like a small Pokemon, however its stomach takes up most of its long torso, making it a big eater. The amount trainers have to spend on food is no laughing matter.
Finally, one that has nothing to do with food. Herdier is expensive to train because it costs a lot of money to properly groom its extremely hard fur.
If you're planning on keeping a Gibble, prepare to pay to keep it warm. People are known to have their heating bills soar when they live with this Pokemon. Next
are the Pokemon you might want to reconsider training because they may cause a massive inconvenience if you won't be able to properly adapt to their lifestyle. Slackoth, for example, lolls around for over 20 hours a day, so if you want to train one, be patient. At least you only need to feed it like 3 leaves a day.
Don't feed it the leaves from the flower bed of a Floette, however, as Floette never forgives anyone who messes up a flower bed.
Female Meowsticks can be a bit more aggressive and selfish than the males. If they don't get what they want, they will torment you with their psychic abilities.
When it comes to Butterfree, be careful not to inhale when it's flapping its wings. The poisonous powders on them are quite toxic. Butterfree will also release a horrible stink if you touch the feeler on the top of its head. It can't help it, it's a form of self-protection.
Aromatisse's strong scent, on the other hand, is constantly emitted by its fur. You'll eventually lose your sense of smell if you're around it for too long. Unless you somehow enjoy the smell, you might want to pass on training one.
Aromatisse's companion Swirlix eats its own weight in sugar every day. For reference, a Swirlix weighs 7.7 pounds, which works out at about $30 a day you're spending on sugar. You better pay for it though, or Swirlix will get grumpy.
Some Pokemon are actually quite dangerous even when they don't mean to. The last bunch of Pokemon are those who can involuntarily harm you. Tyrunt likes to be pampered and is extremely selfish. It can inflict grievous wounds on its trainer just by playing around. Teach it how to play properly or you'll be in serious harm.
Sliggoo also has some issues with unintentionally hurting its trainer. It has trouble distinguishing a line between friend and food. It will calmly try to melt even those it gets along with. Those who wish to become Pangora's trainer have no choice but to converse with their fists. Good luck, trainers.
And unless you want to damage your eardrums, make sure your Whismur feels safe, because if it senses danger, it starts crying at an ear-splitting volume.
The beat of a Yanmega's wings are so powerful that it will accidentally dislodge full-grown trees when it takes off in flight.
Trubbish also has a mechanism that it can't control, belching. Its burps release toxic gases that are life-threatening to children. Give it some Tums to quell its acid reflux.
Once Beware accepts you as a friend, it tries to show you this affection with a hug. Letting it do that though is dangerous. It could easily shatter your bones.
Trampe is also super friendly, but if it's angered, it'll stir up a gale and flatten everything in its path. Don't be fooled by its usual demeanor.
Esper has no control over its psychic powers, and has enough psychic energy to blast everything within 300 feet of itself, so give a healthy balance of training and love.
And finally, Golurk is a guardian of man, but under no circumstance should you remove its chest seal. Its internal energy will go out of control and it will rage indiscriminately, turning everything around it into a mountain of rubble. But I'm sure all of you guys are good trainers and will heed our warnings. But if your Pokemon are not properly taken care of, they may develop illnesses and defects. Toby and I describe these worst case scenarios in this video on his channel. If you just came from his channel, make sure to check out my other videos. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed, consider becoming a patron, or click the join button to get cool rewards like seeing videos days early, huge discounts on the t-shirts I made for you guys, and more. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram too. I'll see you guys very soon. Bye!